Peace, 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 peace to all the people in the house. Gather in, all my people, gather in. We have got a hot topic today. You see it, it's called the Vatican Letters. We was in the archives, we was doing the research, and guess what? We found out, my people. The Vatican. The Vatican. The Vatican got a lot of secrets, y'all. And they held no power over you. So you know we gonna get right into this Vatican Letters. The Vatican Letters, my people. How everybody doing out there in the chat? It's a Sunday. This is some type of storm, so-called storm they got going on up here in the NYC. But you know, NYC people are strong people, my people, my people, my people. So, you know, before we get into this Vatican letter, you know, my people, y'all got to be strong out there because people are going to sell you a dream of freedom. Freedom is not a dream. Freedom is your entitlement by birth. It's not a benefit. It's an entitlement that you were born with because everyone born here on the land in the United States of America was born free. Straight up. There was no slavery in America. Okay. They brought slavery over here to us. So, you know, that's what it be. I'm looking for my peoples up in the chat. So check it. You know, I wasn't looking for the Vatican letters at all, my people, when I started researching. For real, for real. You know, I was examining 19th century ecclesiastical correspondence, trying to understand how the Catholic Church documented territorial changes and population movements across Europe and Asia. You know, that's when, during the 1870s, that's when I was looking for research like that. So, you know, I ran into some standard historical research into the church administrative practices under the Vatican. Now, you know, this kind of work that fills academic journals with, you know, careful analysis and missionary reports, you know, the diocesan boundaries and the pastoral challenges expanding or changing territories. Now, the Catholic Church in the 1870s maintained one of the world's most extensive information networks with priests, missionaries, my people, and diplomatic representatives throughout the regions where the secular governments had minimal presence or authority. They didn't have authority. The Pope never had authority over any American. So, you know, go do your research. Church correspondence from this period provides historians with detailed observations about social, political, and economic changes occurring in remote areas that other institutional sources didn't document comprehensively. But in the margins of academic papers, in footnotes of scholarly articles about Vatican archival collections, and the bibliographic references of dissertations examining Catholic missionary work in Central Asia, I kept encountering something that didn't fit the expected patterns of the ecclesiastical documentation. Allusions to documents from 1874 that supposedly mentioned the ancient civilizations, you know, by name in official Vatican correspondence, time equals 1.8 seconds, not ancient, the vague European geographical designation that appears in some historical atlases and diplomatic correspondences as a general term for inner Asian regions that European powers understood incompletely, not ancient territories or lands of the Tartars or the ancients or the people of the land, the kind of ethnic or cultural references that appear occasionally in missionary reports about diverse populations in Russia and Central Asia, such as Tartaria and so forth, the specific term that appears in alternative historical frameworks. But that mainstream academic census insists never existed as a legitimate political or geographical entity deserving of diplomatic recognition or administrative attention from major European institutions like the Vatican. The Vatican's secret archives contain millions of documents spanning centuries of Catholic Church administration, diplomacy, and correspondence. Access is restricted and carefully controlled. You got to be clergy to get up in the Vatican papers. You know what I'm saying? Researchers must apply for specific permissions to examine particular collections, and they're supervised during their work. So you have to be a pastor, you have to be ordained minister, you have to be clergy to even get up in the Vatican documents, to even get into the Vatican to do the research. The archival system is professional, my people, comprehensive, and designed to preserve historical accuracy. When researchers cite Vatican documents in academic work, they provide specific collection references, document dates, and archival catalog numbers that allow other scholars to verify their sources. This is standard practice in professional historical research. So when I found multiple references to 1874 Vatican letters mentioning Tartaria and the ancients, my first assumption was that these were legitimate scholarly citations that I should be able to trace and verify. The problem is verification, my people. The academic papers that reference these documents are published in legitimate journals by, by credited historians. But when I attempted to follow their footnotes back to the original sources, the trail becomes difficult to trace. The citations reference Vatican archival collections that exist, but with document numbers and filing systems that don't align with certain Vatican archival organizations. Some papers cite documents that were supposedly examined during research visits in the 1980s and 1990s before digital cataloging systems were implemented. So, who changed the records, my people? If the detailed cataloging systems were implemented in the 1980s and the 1990s, then what's up? So, other others reference materials that were allegedly transferred between collections or reclassified under different filing systems during archival reorganization projects. So when they're changing and they're erasing and they're hiding information, it's always reorganization. It's a reorganization project. Why do you have to reorganize history? Why? Is it because you didn't build those buildings? You just quietly moved into the building, or quietly took over the building? The documents are cited as existing, but they've become inaccessible through normal scholarly channels. This could be explained through ordinary archival complexity. The Vatican archives are vast and their organization has evolved over centuries. Documents get misfiled, collections get reorganized, catalog systems change. Resources, researchers with the resources working decades ago might have used filing systems that no longer match current organization. Access restrictions change. Some materials become unavailable for conservation reasons. Some get reclassified for security or diplomatic sensitivity. The inaccessibility of specific documents doesn't necessarily mean those documents never existed, but the pattern of inaccessibility, specifically around documents that allegedly mention Tartaria and the ancients, is notable. Let me describe what these academic references claim the 1874 documents contained and why they alleged contents would be significant for understanding 19th century political geography if they could be verified. According to the scholarly papers that cited them, the Vatican correspondence from that year includes exchanges between papal diplomatic represent, representatives stationed in Russia and Central Asia, and Vatican administrators in Rome, reasonably for coordinating missionary activities and diplomatic relations through the region. The correspondence supposedly discussed territorial and population changes occurring throughout regions that the Vatican documents referred to using specific language. The former territories of the ancients and the ancient lands previously under Tartarian administration and populations displaced from the ancient civilizations, governance structures. The academic papers suggest these Vatican sources treated the ancient civilizations not as a vague geographical designation used by Europeans who lack detailed knowledge of Asian political arrangements, but as a specific, recently extinguished politically entity that had exercised actual administrative control over substantial territories and populations until very recently. The alleged content becomes more specific and more historical, significant in some citations. So, it's a lot with these Vatican letters, my people. You know, I could go on with these Vatican letters of 1874. So you see, 1874 was an 18th century. We had the 17th century, the 16th century, the 15th century, 14th, 13th, and you can go lower and lower. So we were here way before the Vatican letters ever existed. You hear what I'm saying? They have changed history up. The Vatican does not own you or your body or your birth certificate, nothing. The Vatican owns whatever is in the Vatican state of what they have put on the record. So if they have stolen materials from the ancient civilizations, that's something that they have to give back to us. We cannot actually go in and wage war on a Vatican because we are at peace. Now, the Vatican has been waging war on people for centuries, funding both sides of the war. Okay? Now, the trail leads to Rome, to the archives that contain centuries of documented history. But the specific trail that leads to Tartaria and the ancient civilizations before Rome disappears into the filing systems that no longer file those documents, the filing systems that no longer align, collections that cannot be located, and the documents are lost. Now, are they lost forever? We don't know if these documents are lost forever. Only thing that you can do is your own research and try to trace the documents yourself. Now, you know, here at the United States Private Enterprise Free State, we research. We trace our own documents and everything like that. The academic papers that we cite them to continue the existence into legitimate journals. But the sources can't be independently verified by contemporary researchers. Time equals 2 seconds, okay? The Vatican maintains that its archival policy supports scholarly access while protecting institutional interests and conservation requirements. The documents either exist and are being restricted for reasons the Vatican hasn't publicly explained, or they never existed, and multiple academic publications contain citations to materials that weren't properly verified before publication. Either possibility raises questions about how historical evidence is controlled, verified, and made available to researchers such as myself, investigating topics that challenge established historical narratives. So, in 1874, these letters, you know, you don't know what's real, what's not real, what's true, and what's not true. The only thing that you can do is your research, rip the letters apart, dig deep into them, everything. Study the letters, study the structure, study everything about the letter. That's the only thing that you can do to pull out any type of truth in 1874 because we existed before 1874. We are all recycled souls back to complete the mission of what we started when we first got here. So, Mother Nature is the mother goddess of this entire civilization, of this entire universe, and everything within it and without it. So, without Mother Nature, there would not be a Vatican state. Without Mother Nature, there would not be you or me. So, we must give thanks and praise to Mother Nature every day because without Mother Nature, there would be no nourishment on your table or your plate to go inside your stomach to fulfill you, to give you energy. There would be no sun in the sky, no moon in the sky, and nothing what you see, no land, anything without Mother Nature. So, I give all thanks and praise to Mother Nature for giving me the life to come back and correct whatever has not been corrected. Status correction. It all starts with status correction. From status correction, now you can go in and start to handle your business the right way. And we don't sell a dream here at the United States Private Enterprise Free State, my people. We don't sell dreams. There's no such thing as a dream. You don't dream. They will sell you a dream. A la 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 fairy tale. And that's what they're selling people right now as we speak. You have gurus that are selling you a dream of freedom. The only dream of freedom that you have and will ever have is status correction. And there are several steps to status correction. 407 300 5377. Give the United States Enterprise Free State a call and we can help you on your road to status correction. Status correcting is the first thing that you must do before you can claim anything on the record. Your status has to be corrected for all those that don't know. And for all those that want to know, we have classes. We have the private bankers class. We have the status correction class. We have the UCC class. you know, we have the post office class. We have several classes that you may want to get into. You know what I'm saying? Give us a call, 407 300 5377, and we can make it happen, my people. We can make it happen for you, because that's what we do. We make it happen. So, how's your status correction looking? Are you fully status corrected? Are you able to go into the treasury and just do your taxes and not get a frivolous filing? Are you at that point yet? Well, if you're not, you need to give the United States Private Enterprise Free State a call, and we can help you get to that point, my people, because status correction is the only correction. Straight up. Give us a call, 407 300 5377, and you too can have the correct status to do your taxes the way that you're supposed to do your taxes. You know what I'm saying? That's basically the bottom line. But a lot of people don't want to even hear that. All they want to hear is how you going to get your bills. You can't get your bills paid without status correction. If you ain't status correction, you're going to have to use fiat. So, and fiat is a debt note. But then again, debt notes are not taxed. That's why the Federal Reserve calls their note a debt note. Because on a debt note, there is no taxes. So, you have to learn how to leverage your debt for real. So, my people, basically, you know, something happened in 1871. Can anybody out there tell me what happened in 1871? Probably can't. You know what I'm saying? It's like we could say certain things and people don't even know what you're talking about. So a lot had happened in 1871. Continents, capital cities, national governments underwent changes significant enough to be recognized as pivotal movements in their individual national histories. Changes in administration, changes in governance, structures, changes in territorial control, changes in physical infrastructure of capital cities themselves. Each one has an official explanation grounded in local political, local wars, local historical trajectories. Each individual explanation is coherent on its own terms, you know. But when you look at them together, all of them in the same year, 1871, the pattern is harder to explain through coincidence than through coordination. In January 1871, the German Empire was proclaimed in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, formalizing the unification of German states under Prussian leadership after the Franco Russian War. Go do your research. In January of the same year, the Paris Commune would begin its brief existence following France's defeat, a radical reorganization of one of the world's most important capital cities, ending in May 1871 with the bloody week that killed tens of thousands and resulted in massive reconstruction of a city's physical fabric. Also in 1871, Italy completed its unification with the capture of Rome, making Rome the capital, a newly unified nation. For the first time, the Magi government in Japan was restructuring its administrative systems in 1871. abolishing the old dominion system in favor of centralized perfectual government, a fundamental reorganization of how Japan was governed from its center. In Canada, British Columbia joined the Confederation in 1871, completing the first stage of Canadian territorial consolidation. In the United States, the District of Columbia government was recognized by Congress in 1871, creating a new territorial government structure for the national capital. In Brazil, process the abolition process was accelerating in 1871 with the law of free birth, fundamentally changing the social structure of Brazil's governing class. The Ottoman Empire was undertaking administrative reforms in its capital in 1871. The Swiss Federal Council was implementing constitutional reforms. That's nine significant governmental or capital changes in a single year, drawn from Europe, North Africa, Asia, South America, and every major inhabited region on earth. So, my people, as you can see, there was a lot going on in 1871. So, you know, the Vatican did a lot of stuff with paperwork and letters and restructuring a population to make it look like they owned the world. That's what the Vatican did. They restructured a whole population, records, everything to make it look like they owned everything. Everything in the population, the people, everything, the land, everything. But, we know that didn't happen. So the research is really deep, my people. You have to really keep researching. You have to dig and keep digging because history is the only way that you can free yourself. History is in the past. History is somebody else's story. What's your story? What's your right now present story of your status correction? You create history through what you do right now and you implement it and you publish and declare it on the record right now. That's your status correction. That is you rewriting history, not someone else writing your history for you based upon a birth certificate, which has a serial number, which is traded on the stock market. So, you know, you own the birth certificate. You trade your own birth certificate on the stock market. Control it. You know, live off the interest like they do. They live off the interest of your birth certificate until you control it, until you come in and put something on a public record that restates, the public record, reversion of a state. When you rewrite your record and you tell them that you are rebutting what they have said about you as a baby and that you're not a ward of the state and you are competent to handle your own affairs. And yes, we are competent to handle our own affairs because we have fully status corrected. So, status correction is one of the major things, events in your life that takes place. And status correction starts at the age of 18. So, you must be getting yourself ready, getting your children ready before the age of 18 to do their status correction because they'll be able to cash out their BC by the age of 18 and be, a millionaire at 18 and won't have to live off their parents or the system. They will be governing their own self based upon the status correction of what they put on the record. So you have to study status correction. It's an ongoing event, it never, ever dies. Status correction is forever because the status always changes from year to year. You might have a new um, identity, you may have a new nationality, you may have a new address. So your status will have to be updated every time you move. The status correction goes in of a change of address. That's part of status correction, my people. Wake up. You know, it's sad that people really think that they know it all. We don't know it all. We are still learning. Every day we are still learning something new. Because if we knew it all, my people, we wouldn't be here any longer. We would be into the next dimension. But Earth is a learning ground. So we chose to come to this learning ground, learn it, and try to move on. So, you must learn your trade. Your trade is the carpenter's handbook or the carpenter's what are we saying? The carpenter's rule book, my people. You must learn the carpenter's rule book. You know, that's a building construction. You are constructing a building. You have land, you must reclaim it. Once you've reclaimed your land and you get on your land, now you can start reconstructing using the carpenter's rule book. Master masonry, my people. Master your mason. Okay? So the carpenter's rule book, go look it up. You know what I'm saying? Go look it up, my people. You'll find so many wonders of a carpenter's rule book. So, you got to learn the difference between a UCC lien and a maritime lien. You got to go look that up. What is a maritime lien? Well, a maritime lien arises under federal admiralty law, not state UCC law. Maritime liens are governed by Commercial Instruments and Maritime Liens Act, CIMLA, 46 USC Chapter 313. Federal admiralty jurisdiction under the U.S. Constitution. Maritime liens typically arise for unpaid repairs to a vessel, crew wages, salvage services, supplies necessaries provided to a vessel. They attach to the vessel itself, not to the owner personally. They are enforced in federal court, not by a UCC 1. That's a maritime lien. Now, a UCC lien, if somebody has, damaged your vessel, that's a UCC 1 lien. So, you cannot do a UCC 1 lien as a maritime lien. A UCC filing does not create admiralty jurisdiction, does not create a maritime lien, does not convert a land based matter into a maritime law. So, if it happened to you on land, that is a UCC lien. Courts routinely dismiss attempts to label ordinary debts, taxes, or personal disputes as maritime liens. Okay, my people, how's a maritime lien is actually enforced. The lien arises automatically when services are provided. You file a complaint in the federal district court under admiralty jurisdiction. You request in rem action against the vessel. The U.S. Marshal can arrest the vessel. The vessel may be sold to satisfy the lien, but that's only dealing with a maritime lien. If it's a UCC lien, then it's something different. Now, this is very specialized and only applies to real maritime commerce involving vessels on navigable waters. So, if your goal is to file a UCC1, if you're filing a UCC1 properly, it would look like this, my people. Debtor, legal name exactly as it is on a driver's license or entity registration. Secured party, you or your trust. Collateral, clearly described, personal property. So, personal property, the collateral can be money. Filed with the Secretary of State, where debtor is located. That creates a state commercial filing, not a maritime claim. So, my people, okay, we about to get on up out of here because I'm dropping you a lot of stuff. You just need to go and do your research, or you can give the United States Private Enterprise Free State a call, and we can help you with the issues that you're having in court now. 407 300 5377. My people, stay up, stay one, stay strong, and we are out.